everyone. This is Dr. Serelda with the Married to My Purpose TV show, where we talk about real stories, real experiences, and real talks on being married to your purpose. All things purpose today. Listen, I tell you all this every week. We got a treat today. And we got another treat today. So listen, don't judge me. We got another treat this week with none other than my friend, Dr. DeAnna Nix. DeAnna, thank you so much for taking some time. I know you're busy being retired. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm not going to tell her story. I just want to appreciate your presence, because oftentimes people get so busy they don't get a chance to sit still and talk about where they are, where they've been, and where they want to go. So I'm glad that you're giving me a few minutes in studio to talk to me about what you're up to. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
No, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so proud of this Married to My Purpose platform that you've launched. For me, it's been about purpose. It's always about purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of when we recognize that we need to be centered on that, right?
Absolutely.
I think that the writer who brought out Purpose-Driven Life many years ago, that sort of kind of got folks talking about it.
Yeah.
But it comes and goes, right? And so for me, you mentioned retirement. Retirement...
Okay, are you retired? Because you don't look old enough to be retired.
She said we friends. That's why I love her. I will be 56 years old in just a few weeks. And yes, from the government job, 25 years served, I'm retired.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for yours. However, I think that we know enough about each other to know that we're going to be working until forever, right?
Yes.
It's just a matter of making that transition to be able to focus on the things that are more aligned with our purpose, with the freedom to operate and maneuver without being tied to the clock and the schedule, right?
Wow.
Being found faithful in those areas. And so since I've been retired, somehow I'm busier than I've ever been.
I've heard that so many.
How is this possible? And but it's been such a blessing. One acrostic that I heard years ago, and you probably heard it, busy as in being under Satan's yoke. I don't know if you've heard that before.
I have not heard that.
But that's not the kind of busy that I was endeavoring for then or now.
Yeah.
Right, being under Satan's yoke, for those that are believers, if not being under situational yokes, we're just being driven by the schedule, the demands, the things that are not purpose driven, the things that are not aligned with our passion. And one of the main reasons why I decided, and thank God that I was allowed and permitted to retire at this time and took that opportunity, was that yes, thank goodness for the youth that we look like and all of the helpers that do it for us. But the calendar says you're about to be 56 years old.
Wow.
And there are some things that I don't want to not be manifested out of my life before I'm in the age where I am on that back end, right? That sunset season, that retirement time, without the energy and the vitality and the oomph to still do it. Yeah. And so, yes, I have made some decisions.
I love it.
That prompted that exit. One of the things that your platform allows me to do, and we talk about what are we going to do after retirement?
Yeah.
We talk about how are we going to maximize our life at this point. Well, I'm thankful that I figured out what I want my life to be about when I was in my 20s. And I determined.
Did it change?
That I'm not.
Wow.
And I determined that I'm not going to wait until I'm retired to start. My traumatic, dysfunctional, and abusive past set the course for my life very early. But the great thing about that is, once I was in my 20s, it was being refined for me what I wanted my whole life to be about. Now, that doesn't mean we have to have things figured out. I tell people all the time, especially young people, teenagers, folks in their 20s and in their 30s, I tell them, in real life, life didn't even start really, really clicking and making a whole lot of sense for me until I was almost 40.
Wow.
So let the pressure be off. let the performance, go away.
Mm-hmm.
And then for teenagers, because that was some of the most traumatic periods in my life,
Yeah.
I shared with them often that when you're a teenager, it seems like it's your whole life what's going on in high school. It's your whole life what happens with grades or not.
Yeah.
It's your whole life whether you get accepted in a school or not.
Mm-hmm.
But to be encouraged to know that your teen years is just a dot in the box.
Just a dot in the box.
And the box is huge. The landscape is huge. But when life crowds in and circumstances happen, and especially for me and the abuses of my life, I wanted my life to be over multiple times.
Wow.
By the time I was 15, 16 years old.
Wow.
And I needed to know, and didn't have enough people telling me in those years, that my whole life was ahead of me, that this horrible season was just a dot in the box. And it's just by the grace of God, that I was able to live long enough to love the life that I was living.
I love that.
That's one of the things that I've tried to share with teenagers. You may not like what's going on right now. It may be dark and super difficult.
Wow.
But when you hang on in there with what's rooted on the inside of you, that you still believe in strongly and hold on to tightly, there will come a time when you are able to manifest that thing.
How do you talk to teenagers? And since you're talking about teenagers, how do you talk to the ones who may not have had the upbringing or the infrastructure or the support? How do you talk to those? Or have you ever spoken to those type of teenagers that are like, I hear what you're saying, Miss DeAnna, but what happens if my mom and dad weren't around? What happens if I was raised by the streets? What happens? What happens?
So the great news about that is, yes, I put myself in position to have those conversations with teenagers because I was all of those things.
Wow.
I was raised by a single parent. I was, but my parents never did marry.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I was part-time with them, with my father, and part-time with my mom.
Yeah.
And then there was pretenses of what the perfect life was about. That was the show that was being had where my dad was. And then there was the streets of Philadelphia being raised by that mom. They don't know nothing about these days, the government cheese. They don't know nothing about the food stamps. Now they got those little, come on now. And my mom made it do what it do. You know, my mom and we could there's the really painful, really tragic parts of my upbringing, with my parents never being married, with my mom doing the best that she could raising me, with my mom ending up abandoning me because she was carried off with a religious cult that caused her to leave me when I thought that I was going to be with my father for just a few months in the summer. That turned out to her being missing, and this whole dramatic story about, a rescue from the FBI later and the cult leader being put in jail. But that's not what which I have talked about and I shared with those teenagers. The coming up with all the identity crises and being that skinny girl, jealous of the cheerleaders because they had the body and the boyfriends and carrying with the flowers and all the things. And I was in a violent household. My father was a crack addict, a cocaine addict. He was a pedophile. Simultaneously, he was in a broken marriage. He was abusive. I went to school with a black eye that I didn't even bother covering up. I mean, I tell teenagers that my parents on both ends, the things that I endured, that later I point back and say it was only God, because the infrastructure that they both gave me, even in all of their lifing, my mom made me a dreamer. My mom implanted integrity and character and morals in me. She spoke life over me. You're going to be somebody. She made sacrifices so that I could have exposure to better schools, to better opportunities, even though they said she can't afford it. She made sacrifices to put me in positions to be better than what the statistics said I would ever be for as long as she could.
Wow.
And so even though there was that abandonment moment that I mentioned, that was a result of her own pain and her own trauma and her own drama, that then launched me into, when I was just visiting my dad, it was one thing. But once I was living with them full time, then all the masks were off. And then come to find out, they had the big house, the big car, but the refrigerator was empty. There was no gas in the car, and they could, and then all the things all the things they were doing to keep up appearances, to keep up with the Joneses. And so, Serelda, I shared with you that when I was young, I had that truth, justice. I'm gonna, those that were drinking on the streets and those that were suffering in the streets and those that were stealing and robbing, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. I spent periods of stealing and robbing, not because I wanted to, but because I had to, right? But within me, I was like, one day, I'm going to come back and clean up these streets. One day, I'm going to own these properties. One day, I'm going to. And so life didn't snuff out the dream completely. My light didn't go all the way out.
Wow.
And that's what I mean when I say, when I was a teenager, I had the vision.
Yeah.
But I had to live past the abuse. I had to live past the trauma. I had to live past the disappointment. I had to live past the brokenness of the home. I had to live past my virginity being stolen and not let my identity be stolen. I mean, I have all kinds of conversations with the teenagers. They don't want to let me go. But the thing was, because when I was a teenager, I didn't have enough adult representatives to speak up for me, to see me. But I had a couple. It only takes a few sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? It only takes a few. And those couple, I was like, I want to be that teacher, that mentor, that helper.
I love that.